This is Tim Sheeser for TechSpot, and we have with us today the new Retina iPad mini. This is the second generation iPad that Apple has brought out in this sort of mini form factor. It comes with a 7.9-inch display. Of course, it is now a Retina display, which means that it's packing a resolution of 2048 by 1536. Internally, it's also got Apple's brand new A7 chipset that we've seen on the iPad Air and also the iPhone 5S. As you'd expect, there's no removable storage option on this device, but you can get models ranging from 16GB right up to 128GB. There's also a 5-megapixel camera on the rear, as well as a 1.2-megapixel camera on the front, and of course, it's running iOS 7 out of the box. A lot of the aspects of the Retina iPad mini remain pretty much the same as you've seen on the first generation iPad. This means that the only button on the front is the home button here, which basically just goes straight back to the home. If you double tap it, it does go to your app switcher, and if you hold it down, it will open up Siri. Around the device, you'll notice the power button and the 3.5mm headphone jack on the top of this device. On the right hand side, you will find the hold switch as well as the volume buttons. And on the bottom you will find Apple's lightning connector alongside the speakers. So as you'll notice, there's only speakers on the bottom hand of this device, not on the top, which means that when you're holding it in landscape, you're only actually going to get sound coming from that right hand side. Some devices do come these days with the dual speakers on both sides. I think some Android devices come with that, but that's one of the areas where the design of the Retina iPad mini does lack a little bit. But what you're actually getting is still a very nice tablet. It's actually a perfect size for the sort of small size tablet with that 7.9-inch display. The bezel's, while small, which makes it look like you've got a large display, it is still very comfortable. In landscape mode, you can easily game and stuff like this when you're holding the device like this. And of course, changing the orientation and things is quite snappy. As you'll notice on the back of this device, you do get the fantastic aluminium build quality that you've seen on previous iPads. I actually have the space grey model with me today, which is, I'm sure, coming across on the camera as being quite silver in comparison to the last blackish sort of model, but it looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, the bezels on the front are black. You can find a white model in the Apple Store if you choose to buy it as well. The front is made of glass, it feels quite solid, and there is absolutely no flex in the design of this. And it's still quite thin, coming in at 7.5mm, and it weighs just over 300 grams. So overall, again, a very portable tablet, and you won't really complain about the design of this device. Moving on to the display of the second generation iPad mini, and what you'll notice is that the Retina display, coming in at 326 pixels per inch, provides an extremely crisp viewing experience. If you're viewing this video at 1080p, you should notice that the application icons on here are absolutely fantastically crisp. The sharpness of this panel does have some wonderful advantages for things such as viewing text. If we look at here, we have the TechSpot homepage, and you cannot see the individual pixels on this display from a reasonable distance away. Of course, we're not running a 1080p panel on a 5-inch display. You still have it as 7.9 inches in a 4:3 aspect ratio, but it's still amazingly crisp, and even if you zoom in and stuff, you see no jaggies on the text or anything like that. It is very, very crisp. Something that's rather hard to portray over the camera is the reasonably lacking color gamut of the display's panel. Colors just simply don't look quite as good as you'll get from competing devices like the Google Nexus 7 or iPad Air. It hasn't got the full sRGB spectrum, which is sort of the standard for displays these days, which means that sometimes the panel can look a little bit desaturated or undersaturated compared to other things. But to be honest, out of the box, you're probably not going to notice unless you put it up against some sort of other device in your house. And in applications and things, such as if we go to, say, Twitter or something, you'll notice that there's pretty much, it doesn't really affect things such as applications and games all that much. The main difference is in photos, where it might look a little bit washed out, but apart from that, it is still a very good panel, except for that color gamut issue. And in terms of brightness, which you can access here in the launch control of iOS, we've got the brightness slider here. As we change and do things like that, you'll notice the full brightness range. We are running at full brightness as we're filming this outside, and it's still reasonably readable. If we move it into sort of bright areas, you can still see that it's It's still readable, it's not the brightest display I've ever seen, but the low reflectivity of it means that you can actually still see it outdoors. We'll just show off a quick game of real racing so that you can get the idea of just how fast this system on a chip is for running, your favorite apps and games. So what we'll do is we'll head straight into a race here while I talk a little bit about the processor. So what you've got inside here is a 1.3 gigahertz Cyclone CPU, which is a custom Apple-made CPU designed specifically for the A7 chip. And essentially it has 64-bit addressing and it's packaged alongside 1 GB of RAM. It also comes with a PowerVR GPU. It's a quite powerful GPU that can sort of go up against the Adreno 330 GPU you've come to love from Android tablets. This means that even though we're running 1.5 times the resolution of 1080p, this SoC is very, very powerful thanks to that GPU. It easily runs at 60 frames per second in apps and things. Of course, you've got high-end titles on iOS like Infinity Blade, which absolutely no trouble running on this display and this SoC. Also, unlike the first generation iPad mini, the internals of this are identical to the iPad Air and also the iPhone 5S. And this means that there is no performance differences between these devices. It runs extremely smoothly and you won't be lacking in performance if you choose this model over, say, the iPad Air. They are identical, they run all the same apps, pretty much the same speeds, and you can do things such as switching between apps. We'll go back to something that perhaps we haven't used for a while, such as VLC, and even then you'll notice that it loads essentially instantly, just with 1 GB of RAM. You can start using the application and stuff like that pretty much instantly, which is of course great to see. Two things I'm not going to go into too much detail on are the software and the camera. You do have a 5 megapixel shooter on the back of this device found up the top there, but that said, it still is a tablet camera. It's not designed for everyday shooting. It's only 5 megapixels, whereas you get 8 megapixels in the iPhone. In good lighting conditions like we've got here, you'll see that the camera is actually reasonably good quality and it does take photos quite quickly. You can simply tap and it will take a photo essentially instantly. But if you look on the side here, you don't get many options and it's really only for sort of spur of the moment photos when you only have the tablet around. If you've used iOS before, a lot of the things on the iPad mini will seem pretty familiar to you. Of course, we've got new additions in iOS 7, such as the control center. You can flick up and simply control a range of the tablet's features and stuff there. We've also got, of course, this notification pane, which sort of gives you some of the things that might be happening today in your calendar. You can see if by going to all and stuff, you can find out the latest notifications if you have any. And of course we've got Siri and stuff bundled in here, but the main advantage of getting iOS on a tablet is the App Store. The App Store is significantly better than what you'll find on Android or Windows. There are tons of applications that are almost all very high quality, and that means that even if you're just browsing through here, you'll find tons of games even. You've got Infinity Blade, of course, and there's just tons of stuff that is high quality and suited for tablets, suited for this sort of tablet that runs quite well. I have sort of, at the time of filming, I have some of these apps already loaded on here. You can of course get full Google services such as Gmail, YouTube, Google Maps. One of my personal favorites, Feedly, tells you all your feeds and stuff, which of course this is a cross-platform application, but it's available on iOS and it works fantastically. So again, the main advantage to getting an iPad is the tablet selection, which is quite frankly leagues ahead of what you can find on Windows and Android. After a week or so of using the iPad mini, it's pretty clear to me that this is the best 8-inch or 7-inch tablet that you can get on the market today. It is a simply outstanding product with a fantastic build quality, a very good display aside from some color issues, and it has fantastic performance enhanced by the App Store with a fantastic selection of applications. One of the main downsides to getting the iPad mini is of course the price. It will set you back $399 for the entry-level model, which is a Wi-Fi 16 gig model, ranging all the way up to above $600 and $700 for some of the large storage cellular models. In some respects, the premium price you pay translates into a premium product. It's an extremely solid device that has very good internals and very good hardware. On the other hand, they do charge a lot for storage upgrades. It's $100 for each storage upgrade going, say, 16 to 32 gigabytes, 32 to 64 gigabytes. Sets you back $100, which quite frankly is ridiculous. And of course, you do have competition from tablets such as the Nexus 7, which are $170 cheaper than the iPad mini. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for the best small tablet that money can buy, it's certainly the iPad mini. I hope you all have enjoyed the review of the iPad mini. There'll be plenty more reviews coming up on this channel if you want to click the subscribe button to get those sent straight to your YouTube inbox. And of course, links in the description below will take you to the full written review where you can see some benchmarks and camera sample shots as well as full analysis on this device. That's it from us today, and this has been a TechSpot video review.